Their daughter duo, Simone and Olivia Knego, where they discuss the secrets of transformation and how to build bold confidence and unwavering resilience. From intimate conversations with inspiring guests to sharing their personal journeys of triumph and challenge, Simone and Olivia create a supportive space where every woman is encouraged to rise above her fears and love the woman in the mirror. Tune into the Daughter Dearest Podcast and join this special journey of connection and growth.
Everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Daughter Dearest Podcast. I'm Simone Knego.
And I'm Olivia.
You forgot your last name already.
No, but you said my first name. I mean, you said my last name, so I feel like it's good enough. I knew you were going to immediately say something once I forgot to say my last name.
This is how we roll. And today we have a very special guest. Lesley Logan is the co-founder of online PilatesClasses.com. I said it right. I don't know why that's difficult, but it was for me. She is a second generation Pilates teacher, which means her teacher trained with Joseph Pilates. She is also a habits and breathwork coach. She loves helping women ditch perfection. We love that. Connect to themselves and prioritize themselves. Lesley, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, Simone and Olivia, thank you for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, yes. It always is.
We're very big on humor and making mistakes because that's what we do. And if we focus on our mistakes, then we never move forward. So we just kind of we learn and we keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. My most recent call out to hire a new assistant was you need to be self-motivated. You probably need to know what your job is more than I do, and you need to laugh out loud. Like that was the
I love it. I love it. It's perfect. So let's jump in and let's start by I know I'm really having a hard time today. Let's start by talking about Pilates, because I think a lot of people out there might not know exactly what it is. They might think, oh, it's like that yoga thing. Oh no, it's not. So can you give us a bit of background on Pilates?
Yeah. So besides that yoga thing, or it's like yoga, also a lot of people think that if you do Pilates, you're going to have some sort of like body like Miley Cyrus. And I hate to break it to you, but genetics and hormones are a thing when it comes to how your body looks. It's actually less about the workout. So let me explain what Pilates is and we can dive into it. So Pilates was created by a man named Joseph Pilates, and it was brought to the US in the 1920s. And back then, most people didn't actually work out. It was not really a thing, but he was a boxer and he was really, really involved in his movement, which was a lot of functional movement. So when you look at the mat work that he created, which is what he created first, you'll see a lot of functional movements that a lot of movement modalities are going to use today for longevity. So a lot of personal trainers are they're borrowing Pilates exercises. Someone just showed one to me the other day. I'm like, yeah, no, that's a great exercise. I love that they're borrowing it from us, but we've been doing it since the 1920s. And, so it's really, really important because there are so many studies that show that your lifespan is dictated really by how often you can get down on the floor and off the floor without assistance. And so Pilates, that's what it was designed was to really balance your imbalances, strengthen the parts of your body that are weaker, but also stretch the parts of your body that are tighter. And he, eventually, it developed reformers and Cadillacs and other pieces of equipment. So a lot of people think Pilates is only on the reformers or versions of a reformer. And the truth is, like, if you say, oh, I do reformer Pilates. So I would just say you do Pilates because it's just it's an apparatus that you do. But the mat work is where we're trying to get all that equipment is trying to get you to the mat, because the mat is where you can be, it's the most accessible, because you just need room on the ground to lay down and move. And a lot of people think it's only for women. I don't know how many years of the NFL showing videos of themselves Pilates we have to do to get men to realize that it's for them. But it's a workout that is for anyone with a body, and it can be modified to fit where your movement practice is. It is challenging to do the mat work on your own if you have any deconditions, but there are people out there that can support you to get you to where that is. And so it's a full body workout that you can do every day. And for the ladies listening, especially when you're on different parts of your cycle, a low impact intentional movement is what you need. And Pilates is something you could do every day of your cycle, whereas a HIIT class or CrossFit, those are classes you should only be doing on parts of your cycle. So I really love it because you don't have to figure out, like, what am I going to do today? You can just do that.
I love that. And I wonder, when I think about how many times I've tried to push myself. For example, I did boxing for a long time, and I'm hitting mitts, I'm hitting a bag, and it's like every day, right? And it's so hard on my body. And I actually did Pilates for a long time when I was younger. I need to get back into it because I do think that's what I need now, because it's funny that you say the importance of getting, up from being on the floor, that kind of stuff, up and down. So my husband is a physician, and that's what he's constantly telling his patients, is that the importance of stretching. And he does it all the time now, but the importance of really taking care of yourself.
He loves Pilates.
Yeah. So I think it's so important that we realize that it's not you do this same thing every day. That's really hard on your body. Pilates is something that you can really adjust throughout your whole month.
Oh, it meets you where you are. So no matter what your movement level is, it's going to meet you in that space. So if you are someone who already works out, there might be a humbling moment there, because it looks really like, oh, I could do that. But it's like the more you do Pilates, the more muscles it uses. So the harder it feels, but the more possible it gets. But also, if you only have 5 minutes, what's really cool is you can do 5 minutes of Pilates, and you'd be surprised once you start to learn the exercises, how many exercises can happen in 5 minutes. It's not 5. It can actually be like 7 or 8. And though each exercise is a full body workout, which means you are getting a full body workout in those 5 minutes, which is different than I could say, I love the gym, I lift weights, and ladies, we should. But 5 minutes at the gym, I can get like 10 squats, and I'm supposed to rest. So like when you're time constricted, like it's a really great movement practice.
I personally love Pilates. Recently, I've started just like working out a lot more, and I first started getting into yoga, and then I wanted something that would challenge me like a bit more in the physical sense. But I thought it was really interesting when you were talking about hormones and like aligning it with your cycle. It's so something that I don't know anything about, which is crazy because I'm a 21-year-old woman, and I don't even know how to regulate my own hormones. So I found that incredibly fascinating.
It is. Okay. So I, as a 41-year-old, have no idea. I'm not an expert in this, but like I learned this probably in 2020. Someone told me that you can do workouts based on your cycle. And I was like, what? Why am I just hearing about this in my late 30s? And there are apps out there that will obviously help you with your cycle, but there's one specific app that will tell you what workouts to do. And I changed when I film for my website to be during the times of my cycle that I can do more workouts.
That's so interesting.
So there's these like 2 weeks where you should be like doing higher intensity, more workouts. And so instead of me just like doing more at the gym, I'll actually just film those days, because it's a part of your cycle where you want to shine anyways. It's where you want to be out. Hello, look, it's me, right? And then there's parts of your cycle where like, please, dear God, close the door. I just want to be inside. And those, you should be doing low impact, intentional movement. You want to get the blood flowing. And Pilates is going to be hard, but it's such low impact that it actually is really nice on the body. And also you can modify. You can go, I'm not doing that exercise today, and you can still do the work. And so it's really cool, because the problem with most workouts out there is they're actually designed for a man's body. Yep. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of the reasons is, like, still to this day, it's really hard to have any scientific studies done on females because it's too complicated. So it's actually the most frustrating thing out there. But any weight loss, any exercise methods that have been tested were always tested on men. And the problem is that a male cycle is 24 hours. So they can do the same workouts. Like love Huberman, learn a lot from him. However, he shared his like workout plan. I'm like, that would never work for a female ever, because she could only do that for 2 weeks. And then the other 2 weeks, she'd have to do less. She'd have to slow it down. There's just different things. And even as like, especially when women hit perimenopause, you have to be listening to your body. If you do too much cardio, you can actually really stress your body in a way that's going to make perimenopause not pleasant. It's already not pleasant. So like, let's make it easier on ourselves. And then once you hit menopause, it's a whole different thing. And the ladies listening who are, in that chapter of their life, you can use the moon cycle as your cycle. So as the moon gets bigger, as the moon is getting bigger, you can do more intensity stuff. You can, by the way, you could start new projects. Like, it's really exciting. And then when the moon is waning, it's like, it's getting smaller and smaller. That's when you should be finishing projects, doing that low impact stuff, staying more connected to yourself, a little more introverted connections that you would want to make. So yeah. So anyways, I only learned this a few years ago. And it was so fascinating. I'm like, oh, no wonder, like, sometimes I would like have the best gym day and some days I would have the worst. I'm like, what is wrong?
Yeah.
What is wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you. You're a superhero is what it is. And you just have different, you have to have a different recipe book for yourself on those days when you are needing.
It makes so much sense now that as you say it, because like, I know there's times where I'm like, why can't I do that today? And now I'm like in the last group, I am, postmenopausal. I am there. Right. So, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Some women are very jealous. They're like, she's made it.
Barely. I'm 50. I'm 51. I feel like it's been a long time coming. So, but it really does, the idea of using the moon as your cycle. I think that's just such a great way to think of it so that I can actually put myself on that cycle.
Yeah, you totally can. Also, and I'm not a functional medicine doctor, but one of the things that helped me, this might help Olivia, is I seed cycled. So I am not someone who can be on hormones like birth control hormones. Hopefully when perimenopause comes, I can figure out an HRT that might work for me. But I just didn't do well with that. And so I actually did something called seed cycling. And seed cycling, look it up. You guys, this is amazing. And you can seed cycle ladies who are postmenopause with the moon. So there's 2 types of seeds you have for the first 2 weeks of your cycle or first 14 days. And then there's 2 types of seeds you have for the second part. And it helps with the hormone balance. And I recently was like, I need to get back on that because when I did seed cycling, my boobs never hurt. So it didn't feel like a workout. Because when you're like, you're like, I don't want to lay on my stomach. This is the most painful thing. And when I seed cycled, I didn't really have that as a problem. I didn't have a zit, like nothing. Wow. It's just like a really cool thing. So again, like it's what I love about seed cycling and working with my cycle. And again, I'm not like, this is not the type of expert that I am in, but as I've done this and I've used it with my Pilates practice, what I have learned is like, you can actually take those days where you feel sluggish and underwhelmed and actually find ways to tap into that and take your energy to the next level and support yourself without pushing yourself. Like it can be a pull. You could be pulled with the energy of what's going on.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great segue to the next thing we wanted to talk about,
which is prioritization in women. So obviously your Pilates classes are targeted towards women.
Yeah. We always say like OPC, it's for women in their like late 30s and early 40s, those who aspire to be that, like that, and a few good men.
You always need a few good men.
A few good men, but we always, and they really are like a few good men. So shout out to them. But what we do, it is designed for women and not super, super young, although we can attract that. It's really designed for that busy woman who has a lot on her plate. Typically, they might even be moms, but most of them work or they're retired from that. But at any point, they have a lot on their plate. And so I actually was trying to figure out like why I created this membership so that people could access wherever they were. I created in a specific way so we could ditch the decision fatigue that people have to take, that women have so many decisions to make in a day. And so I did not want to have a Pilates platform where people have to choose from thousands of classes and try to figure out and filter.
So real.
Like, I only have 15 minutes. I only have 30 minutes. Like, it sounds good when you're shown that on a Peloton or anything like that. But then it's like in working reality, you're like, I don't know, just this class that's 15 minutes and I don't like country, but I'll just turn the music. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we just don't have that kind of time. And so I wanted to make sure it's super easy for people to, like, when they've made the decision to move, they could press play and go, right? So, but what I was noticing is even with all that simplicity, even with the accountability of the class disappearing, even with the short time of the class, even if telling people they don't have to finish it, it's okay, it's optional, we were still having people going, I love it, but I don't use it. And I was like, what is going on? Like, how do habits get made? How do we prioritize ourselves first? This is 30-minute classes are 2% of your day. Like, how is this happening? So I studied habits with BJ Fogg. He's the author of Tiny Habits. So you all can go read his book. He's a really, really sweet human. And I really appreciate him like sharing how his own journey of habits are made. But what I've discovered is that like prioritizing yourself first is just another habit. And so if you don't prioritize yourself first, that's a habit. So we don't like all the habits that we have.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, we keep them, and we can talk about how to unravel a habit you don't want. But to prioritize yourself first, it's going to come from, like, first of all, acknowledging that you're not. And that's going to be hard for a lot of people because like, why on earth wouldn't we? And that can feel like, oh, I should be doing this, or I want to be. And we start to like shame ourselves and just have to go like, I'm not. And what would that look like for me? And for me, I have a hard time sitting and meditating. Like every person I look up to like has a meditation practice. And I'm like, you don't have 3 dogs. You must not work from home. You must not have a husband whose alarm is going off in the background forever.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Like, forever. So like, cool. But like I cannot sit still for an
Neither can I.
Or even
not even 5 minutes.
10 minutes. So, right. So like what, and it's not like I don't need to go find a therapist to figure out what that is. I can actually just figure out a way that I can meditate within myself in a movement practice. And so for me, like Pilates is my movement meditation because I have to focus on what's moving from where. I have to like be in that. There's no other distractions. I'm just doing that. So I had to figure out like, how am I going to prioritize myself first? For some people, maybe thinking, Lesley, this is amazing. I never want to do Pilates. That's fine. What would make sure that you're filling your cup first? What would that look like? So for me, I have set all like, with this, I don't know, I'm sure you can do with an Android, but on an iPhone, you can actually set up different, those like focus modes, but you don't have to choose them. You can actually pick like from the time I wake up until 8 a.m, my phone only shows a few apps on the screen and it turns off all the notifications of my other buttons. So I don't see text message numbers. I don't see email numbers, and I can only see the apps that help me either do breath work or Pilates, like my Spotify music, do some Pilates. Like, there's another app that like helps me like do this like sensate thing, like only shows me those things. So I only have choices to do those things during that time on my walk and things like that. So you can set yourself up for success even with your own phone, like not disturbing you during these times, but finding out like, what would that look like? I love to wake up, get outside and go for a long walk. I'll even do it in the rain. Like I love that fresh air in the morning. That fills my cup. For someone else, that might be, walking their dog or going to the gym. You have to figure out what that is for you, but whatever you want it to be, you need to actually put boundaries around it. And sometimes that means telling the people in your life, like my husband, he had some things he wanted me to do. And I'm like, I can't do those things for you in the morning. You either need to find a way to automate that or move it to another time, because I am doing these things and it makes me feel better. And then I won't be like upset when I see you because I did all these things for you. I have to do these things. So the whole team knows they can't get a hold of me from the time I wake up until 9 a.m. It's not happening. Don't bother me. It's got to be that protected time. Now, obviously with kids, that's a long amount of time, but even if it's 30 minutes for you, that's what you need. You need 2% to prioritize.
What would you say to the moms out there that would say, I just don't have time. I don't have time.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a really good one because first of all, if you have an infant, you have got to just know that like I'm sorry.
Yeah. You don't actually have the time.
A prioritization, but you don't. But after like the infant time, when there's a little bit more space for you, it's actually imperative, like that it's integral to their life that you prioritize yourself first, because actions are caught, not taught. So
I love
for example,
that.
One of the girls, it's really, really true. One of my friends has 5 kids and she is the person who taught me that. And she's like, their actions are caught, not taught. And not just with kids, like the people in your life, right? If you say Sunday mornings are like your private time, but you answer the phone when they call you, like you're telling them that they can call you. You know what I mean? So like, that's really how it is. And so one of my girlfriends, her niece said to her like, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to be like a doctor. And she was like, oh, that's amazing. Do you want to do anything else? She's like, oh, I can't do anything else. Because if I have kids, I can't be a doctor. And she's like, why would you say that? She's like, well, because my mom, she doesn't do anything else. She can only take care of us. So like kids do pick up on these things. And what's important is not that they're like they're not, you're not paying attention to them. It's letting them see that they can have their dream and have children. And maybe if for the stay-at-home moms, like if that's your dream, I love you. I wish we paid you. I wish we gave the world to you.
For sure.
It's an under-respected job, but it is important. And so, especially for those people who are still married to their partner, like your life, your marriage will be better if you prioritize yourself first, and that the kids come just a little bit after that. Like it's you, it's your marriage, it's your kids, because then you're showing them what a whole life looks like. And yeah, they'll be disappointed. Yes, they're not the center of your universe, but that doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean that they're going to have less of you. They're going to have more of you, because when you have energy, think about who you are, how you show up. When you don't have energy, think about who you are and how you show up. I can tell you right now, I have children, but I talk to my dogs very differently when I'm exhausted versus when I'm like filled up, right? And I can tell just by how I talk to my 14-year-old dog, because she's really needy. Obviously, she's 14 years old. If I haven't slept well, if I didn't have my morning routine the way I wanted, if I didn't take care of myself that morning, I am not like, oh, Gaia, let me like hug up on you. I'm like, okay, go lay down. Go lay down. I got it. You know what I mean? You get shorter with people. And guess what? That's not how I want to be with her. And if I had kids, that's not how I want to be around them. So just know that like, you're not making them last on your list. You are doing these things so that they can have the best of you when you're around them. And how cool is that?
And I agree 100%. As a mom of 6, like the reason I asked that question, because I think sometimes I had periods of time where I didn't prioritize myself, and I definitely didn't show up as strong as I could have been if I would have taken that time for myself first. My kids know now that I am going to do things for myself. But it's interesting to hear other people's perspective when you do something for yourself. I remember being on a podcast once, and the woman asked me, I was gone for 2 weeks because I climbed Kilimanjaro. And the woman asked me, well, don't you think that's selfish? You left your family for 2 weeks. And I said, self-care. First of all, self-care is not selfish. And second of all, how amazing is it for my kids to be able to see when they set a goal and put in the work, they can do whatever they want to do. And that's not compromising my relationship. That's making them stronger, because they see that they can do stuff like that in the future. So for all you listening, that is what's so important is, again, what you said, it's caught, not taught. So, yeah. Okay. I just want to say, I interviewed a woman who has 7 children. 7, and she climbed all 7 K2.
Love that.
And and by the way, like in 2.5 years, and
wait, hit me. Like, that's a lot of climbing for 2.5 years.
I know. And also she like trained only for like a year before that. So like it's the whole thing. But at any rate, like I had asked her, I said, okay, hold on. I just got to know, like, do you have like help? How many nannies? What's going on here? Like, how did you do this? Because I love that you did it. But like, also like, I know a lot of my moms, I want to know. She's like, Lesley, you can take a step to a soccer game. Soccer games are really long, and I can be a present parent at a soccer game stepping on a step. She's like, there is ways to take care of yourself and hit your goals and still be there for your children. And my kids got to see me go after a goal, just like you just said, Simone. They got to see if you have a goal, not, oh, my mom's gone all the time. Like that is like, if you like, someone I once got to know, she said, we have to call out wellness shaming when it happens.
Yes.
Because there's wellness shaming out there, and it really happens mostly in like the female world, because there's a jealousy, or I couldn't do that, or I like, there's this whole hang up. And when anyone says to you, it must be nice, or, oh, like that's amazing that you can go do that. It's like, no. I can go do that, and you can do whatever you want to do. And it might look different. It might not be going away for 2 weeks, but like, there are possibilities for us all, and we have to let ourselves dream those things and figure it out so that the kids around us, the people around us, can see what is possible. How cool that your kids could know that they could go climb Mount Kilimanjaro. That's amazing. It really is. Like I was about to say, my mom climbed a mountain. Like that's what I remember from that, not the 2 weeks that she was away. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Olivia. Because I mean, like, I guess I should have asked, like, how did you feel?
I mean,
you were like, she left.
I think you can speak for this, Mom, especially when you started getting more involved in Cabinet and Jewish Federation. I was 100% your biggest supporter. And just because, I mean, it was just so awesome to see you get involved in something and like be in leadership positions, because I was proud of you. Like, obviously you're my mom, and it's just like, yeah, women in leadership positions is fantastic. And like, even more fantastic is being able to successfully balance a family while having these roles. And it shows me that I'm capable of doing it. I mean, like, I was raised by very strong women, like my mom. And then like my grandmother was one of few female doctors in her medical school class, one of 4, I believe. So it's like, I've always kind of been taught to do not even taught, just like there aren't limitations. There's nothing stopping me. Yeah. And I do think that it like actions are definitely caught, not taught. And I think that with my friends who don't necessarily have as strong of female role models, they don't necessarily feel that they can do all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's look, no one is perfect. And so we're all going to make some mistakes along the way, but I actually do think one that's better. We learn more from those mistakes and how they affect ourselves and people than the things that just go so well. But also I remember my parents saying, do as we say, not as we do. And I'm going, that doesn't actually make any sense. If you can't even uphold the rules that you are putting in place with us, how are we, the littlest person with no life experience, supposed to do that? And I couldn't articulate as an 8-year-old, but I just remember going, that is that's not
I had the same thing. I had that one, and my parents would say, what would other people think? And I'm like, really? This is not what I'm worried about, right? Oh, yeah, it was a killer, right? It's a killer.
There's the recovering perfectionist and overachiever in me, just felt like this, because that is the hardest. I don't know how you overcame that, but obviously you did, because that's the only way you could handle the person saying what she said about the 2 weeks of travel. But to that's such a, and not that they intentionally did it, but that's a people pleasing characteristic to make for people, which means no boundaries, which means no priority.
Yeah. I mean, I think women in general are just taught not to say no. So when we see women that are yes women or say no, you know what I mean? We're just shocked by it. It's shocking to see a woman speaking for herself or doing things for herself. Even just in my friendships, it's sometimes shocking. They say no to things.
Yeah, well, I just saw the female quotient Instagram put this story out again. I've seen it before. So it's Katherine Heigl doing an interview. And I remember, my young 20s hearing she's difficult to work with. And she's really, she's really hard to work with. And she said, I'm not rude and I'm not hard to work with, but I will say when I'm being treated differently and when I'm being treated wrongly, when my contract is not being upheld on the other side, I'm going to speak up for myself. And that doesn't make me rude or complicated. We're allowed to demand respect because I'm going to respect you. You have to respect me. And I was like, oh my God, how crazy this world is we live in, because whenever a female stands up for herself, there's this attitude that she's she's not caring, or she's cold or whatever. And it's or she's it's no, actually she's just asking that you give her what you said you would, that she would give you what she said she would. We're all supposed to uphold these things, but if a dude does it, it doesn't happen that way. And it's really frustrating. So my friends and family, they'll say, can we get together? And I'm like, yep, you can fit. Let's pick a Tuesday night after 6:00 after March 11th. And they're like, oh, that's a long time. This is a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, well, it feels like a long time. That is when I can give the most present me that you'll ever get. Anytime before that, it's gonna be 17 minutes. So if you want to see me in person, I want to give you all my time. And it sounds cold or whatever. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be this is the most endearing thing. And if you need me more than that as a friend, then we might not be the most compatible friends. And that would suck because I love you. But
I appreciate that to the nth degree, because I am the kind of person that my friends know that me not responding or me not being able to go out to lunch isn't because I don't want to hang out with them. It's because I have so many other things going on and I want to give my full attention. I want to be able to spend the time and really spend the time. And so in order for me to do it, these are the dates that I have. And my closest friends and my family, they get it. And there's not been a time where they've been like, oh, we're not going to hang out with her anymore because she just doesn't have the time for us. It's not that at all. They're just she's busy. We'll see her in 2 weeks. That'll be awesome when we see her in 2 weeks. So, but I hear you, because it is hard sometimes. And when we talk about, you were talking about respect. It's funny. When I was a kid, I was taught respect your elders, respect your parents, respect your teachers. Not once did anybody ever say to me, respect yourself. And so that's why I'm so focused on respecting your reflection is what I like to say, because I think that we're not taught that, and we need to be taught. I mean, I teach it to my kids, but I don't think everybody's taught that. And I think it's so important that we have to understand that we have to respect ourselves first.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That is cool. I love that. Yes, every kid in school, and it's definitely not being taught. I mean, nowadays they're teaching people what they can and can't read, which is like, just another frustrating thing for me. And because like, that is one way that we're taking away. It's another major way we're taking away ways that little people can respect themselves. Like I remember going to the library and being able to choose whatever book I wanted, so I find like, I love that, Simone. I think, my goodness, I need to tell all of my girlfriends with kids to do that. Because like, what a great way to teach them how to prioritize themselves first. But like, also, it's okay for them to say, no, I don't want to hang out every single time someone's like, I remember when I had like a birthday party, we had to invite everybody because heaven forbid we like make anyone feel left out. And there's something to that because like bullying is real, but also that meant every birthday party have 30 kids, which means I could never do the thing I want to do with 5 people.
Yeah. And like realistically, only 5 of those kids are your close friends that you actually wanted to be there. Yeah.
Yeah. So look, the world is really complicated, but I think we make it more complicated by worrying about what all the other people are going to think about what you're doing for yourself. And someone's not going to like you. Like lots of people probably won't. And someone's going to have a problem with how you take care of yourself. And the only person who should matter first is you. Because if you do take care of you in a way that feels super, super good, you are going to be better to all the people in your life. You just will. And like, it is complicated. It doesn't mean having a conversation because it might affect your partner and it might affect your kids. Or maybe there's a class you want to take and it may mean that you can only do school drop off 3 days a week. And so you need help 2 days a week. Guess what? Find another mom, find another person, find another parent who could do the other drop offs and you guys can trade off, like during the pandemic when my girlfriends, they were able to like do a little pod with these kids. And so like, this mom had them on Mondays and this one had them on Tuesdays. And so there was 3 days of every week that several of moms had the mornings off to go do things. We have to understand that like we can ask for help in protecting ourselves and prioritizing ourselves first. It doesn't have to be like you do it all on your own either. And sometimes involving other people teaches them something that they might not have even thought was possible. And then also like for me, I have this amazing morning routine. My husband has an incredible night routine. It's his own thing, right? Because he's like, oh, she does all these things for herself. So he does it at night. I don't care what he's doing after I go to bed. Like have an amazing nighttime routine.
I think when you talk about moms and asking for help, or women in general asking for help, like that is not a weakness, right? That's what we're here to help each other, not to berate each other, not to bring each other down, but to really bring each other up. So when there's something that you need, it took me a long time to learn this. I was the queen of I have to do it myself, or I don't know, I don't think they're going to want to help. And now when someone offers help, I'm like, hell yeah. I'm in. Whatever you want to do for me, I'm in. But it's a hard thing to overcome that mindset of that. If we ask for help or if we show that we need help, then it means we're weak, which is so not true. It means we're human. Everybody needs help.
Yeah. I would love to know who taught us that we were weak if we asked for help or accepted
ridiculous.
Help. I really would love. That would be really a great thing. I really struggled with asking for help, and I would do everything. Like I loved getting promoted. So I would just do extra stuff to get, I don't know. There was just something weird. Obviously I was like on a words of affirmation kick.
Fair enough.
And but I remember like when I became single, after my last long-term relationship, I read this dating book and like, I've told other friends to read it and they think it's stupid. And I'm going to tell you, I'm like, well, I have an amazing husband because I listened to the thing. It said, I took one thing, that men need to feel needed. And here I was like doing everything for myself. And it doesn't mean like I am not this like self-starter person who like does what she wants. But when my now husband was like, hey, I'm at the store, we're going to the thing. He's like, do you need anything? What is our number one response when people ask anything?
No,
I'm good.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, I'm good. Thanks so much for asking. I said, oh, it'd be great if you can get me some sparkling water. And it was so hard. I remember like looking at it and like taking way too long to send it, but I was like, he needs to feel needed.
Yeah. Wait, that's so legit though.
And so it's just like, it was like a small step in me practicing this. And you guys do small steps, do tiny, tiny practices. Everything you do should start small to build this habit, but it it allowed him to do something for me. It allowed me to receive something. And also he doesn't think less of me because I asked for some sparkling water. Like, it allowed him to participate in my life in that way. And I remember I got my first assistant. I would ask her, I was like, is it okay if you do this? It's okay if I ask you this? And she's like, Lesley, so I just want you to know I'm an assistant. I have to help you. If I don't help you, I don't have to help you. And she's like, you just stop asking me if it's okay. I will tell you if it's not okay. And it was like, oh, okay. Okay. And she had to teach me how to like be someone who had an assistant. And now I'm like, okay, can you do this? Can you call this person? Like, yeah. And if you can't, like, I'm like, if you can't do things, you'll just tell me, and that's okay. And I'll receive that.
It's a struggle. Right? It's all these things. And I don't know where a lot of this came from. I mean, I don't remember anybody saying to me, like, you're weak if you can't ask for help, or I think it's so much that it's part of our society that it's just when you see other people doing things, you're like, oh, they don't ask for help. Yeah, I'm not going to ask for help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But like, anytime, like I used to listen to like How I Built This, and I would look at these different female CEOs who do things, and what you hear is like all the people that were involved in making them do things. And I remember growing up, my mom's favorite movie was like My Cousin Vinny, and Marissa Tomei's like thing at the end when he's like, I want to do it all on my own, and she's like, oh my goodness, she's like, what if you won every single case, but at the end you had to say thank you. I just come back to that. Like, that's like such a thing. It's like, what if I could have everything I ever wanted, and at the end I just had to look at people and say, thank you so much. Like, she's like, because in the line, she's like, oh my gosh, what a nightmare. Yeah. It's such a funny thing to think about. And so I think if we can just actually recognize that, like, anybody who's ever had anything done did it with a team, and it doesn't make you less than anything to ask for help. And you are right, Simone, that it's just like kind of a societal thing we're taught, which is, again, why actions are caught, not taught. Like, it's just like we're just picking up this energy and this pressure. And, all I can say is, like, the more you get to know yourself, the easier it is to figure out.
I think that one thing I want to add to that, and Liv, then you can go on from there. But the idea, I think that part of it is, at least the way I see it, is there's this positive connotation with self-made. So when you hear self-made, you think that, oh, that person says they're self-made. I don't know anybody who is self-made. You always have help, right? It doesn't matter. Like, every celebrity out there, they have lots of help. Every doctor, everybody has help. So the idea that you're self-made, I think, and that we put so much weight on that as a society, I think that that's one of the places that we go wrong.
For sure.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a little bit about the struggles of women and the struggle of accepting accepting help. But what would you say is your biggest struggle, or like biggest struggle up to date, and how did you overcome it?
Oh gosh, I think I'm still overcoming.
Fair enough.
So I'm a recovering perfectionist and overachiever, and I will always be in recovery because I think it's very perfectionist to like recover.
Yeah.
But I think as much as I tell people like that it's like not everyone's going to like you, every time I say that, it's to remind me, because of what I do, I put a lot of content out there to help people. And 95% of the comments are, thank you, I loved it, this is amazing, or they have questions. But like, I love questions because they're like intrigued and they want more. And like 5% will be just like the meanest comments. And it takes me, some comments are so mean that it makes me doubt myself. It makes me like worry that the whole world is against me. Like, there's that 8-year-old in there who's like been told that everyone needs to like you, and like, all this stuff. And so, and what I found is, like, anytime I try to please that 5%, I lose who I am. And the people who do like the things that I do don't like what I'm doing, because I'm not I'm not being me anymore. And so I still am having to overcome that. And I don't know how long that will take. My hope is that it's faster recovery times in between, as opposed to like necessarily longer. And so the other day, when I finally went to my YouTube to look at some comments on some things, it had been a while. I was having a retreat. And so normally I'm there like every other day. And so there was, out of like 50 comments to respond to, 3 that were just mean. And excuse me. instead of deleting them, which is like what is easy to do, it's my channel, I can do what I want, I actually responded to them in a way that I hope either lets them understand that there's other people out there who they might like better. And it lets people who come to my page know, this is how I'm going to respond to you if you treat me like this.
I love that.
And it wasn't mean. It was completely supportive. You don't like this workout? It's totally fine. That was not my intention. I'd love everyone to enjoy it. But may I suggest not throwing out Pilates, but maybe go find other people who you could like. Here are some words to search. It would get you a different response than me. And, you know, it sucks. I hate that. But also, they're clearly not my people. And that's just going to have to be
I think that's super powerful. And I remember when my book first came out that I received like really great reviews. And then the first time I opened one that was like just mean, I was like, what happened? Like, I don't understand why this person is so angry. I don't think they really read it, or I'm not sure what they were looking for. And I let it become personal for a little bit. And then I was like, this isn't about me. This is about the other person. When someone feels like they can just be mean, then it has nothing to do with me. If they don't like my book, they don't have to make a comment on it. Just don't read it. Put it, return it, whatever you need to do. But why be mean about it?
So I have a book it's for Pilates instructors who are new. It's more of a business book that I really want to put out there because there's so much misconceptions on how to become a Pilates instructor. There's a lot of people who are trained over a weekend and then they wonder why they can't get a job somewhere else, and they invested all this time and all this money. And so I put this book out there that I would help future teachers. And it took me, you guys, I hired someone to help, not a ghostwriter, but someone to help me like framework the book because I didn't know how to write a book. And that person helped with some of the editing because I would send them drafts and they would go, put more here, do this here, but they were not an actual grammar editor. And then I had someone else who's not a grammar editor, but she was an English major. So like I had her read it and she helped me put, that was just not my thing. Where do you put, and this is before Grammarly, you guys, like this is not like, there was not like some other AI tool out there to help me. And so I put it out there, but of course, like the thing I was most worried about was like, did I do an Oxford comma in the right place? So of course, Great reviews. People loved it. And then when I got a comment from someone saying that my my commas and things like that were so bad that it was a distraction for me in the book. And there was like this visceral, like I wanted to go into the computer and go, who is this person? What are they, and then I let it sit there without responding. And I went for a run and I was like, this is not a book on English. It's not a book on how to do commas. This is the book on how to do a Pilates business. And none of those commas are such a distraction that changes a sentence in a way that you wouldn't get something out of it. And so this person is just a person who loves to tear people down. So I responded, it's a good thing I'm not an English major and that this book is not about how to put commas in the right place, but I know it can help you with your Pilates business. So, maybe take a reread. Thanks so much.
I love that.
I was just like, but sometimes for me, I have to the first instinct is they don't like it. They don't like me. My earth is going to my universe is going to blow up. And you know what? That was definitely part of being raised to get A+ and straight A's and all these things. And I just have to let it go, that I'm going to say things that are piss people off. There might be something I said here today. Someone's like, I can't believe she said that. I'm sorry. Everything I do is with the best intentions in mind. And I also go through the world that everyone else is doing things with best intentions. And if I don't love someone or like someone or agree with someone, guess what I could do in this amazing world we have? Mute them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they too have the power to do that to me. And you know what? That would suck if you were the person I really wanted to help. And some of that feedback I do take into consideration. It's not like I look at some of the people's feedback and go, oh, whatever, they don't like me, it's tough on them. No, sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, I can see how that could be misconstrued, and I'll do better next time. I refuse to be perfect for people because that is never going to make that's also not going to please everybody.
So true. But it is I think about this a lot, that how when someone makes a comment on something, is it better to just not respond? Is it better to redirect them? What's the right thing to do? And I think it just depends on the situation. But I love what you said about sending them into, here's some keywords to search. find something this way, it's a really positive way of doing it without, and letting that person be the one who's people will look at the comments and say, that was just mean, instead of.
Yeah. Cause you responded so politely.
Yeah, no, I think that's, so one of my girlfriends, because I was going through something and I asked her, like, how do you handle this? She had way more followers than me. And she said, oh, I actually asked this person. And so this is how I got this. She's like, I pinned those comments to the top and I let my followers take them down. And I was like,
that's awesome.
And I was like, that's amazing. Like, obviously you have to have built that money up, but like, that's something you can do. And I think you're right. I think it's the context is going to depend. And also like how out of line is it? Like, is it a bully? Is it like someone who's just like just there to tear you down? Then I actually don't want to give their comments any oxygen. And I don't want anyone else to see that because I don't want that negativity in their life. So I will delete because guess what? It's this is my place, my playground. You want to say things about me on your playground? Go ahead. I can't stop you. But that's a reflection of you more than me. But other comments where like I find that I could educate. Again, I do that for my people more than that person. I doubt the person who recently wrote something about like my workout, making them feel bad about their body. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like what? How is that even possible? Like, I know for a fact how many times I say it's brave and courageous to replace what you can't do with what you can. I do not have a perfect body. I let it all show in these workouts. I do leave in the mistakes I make with the exercises. And unfortunately, you stumbled upon a workout routine that is more advanced than your practices. Yeah. And I also said, if you're new, here are these beginner workouts you should do. They're in the show notes. So I gave you all these times to jump off and do the right thing for yourself. And you chose not to. I did not make you feel bad about your body. And you should make yourself feel bad about your body. You just chose the wrong class. There's nothing wrong with your body. So I just was like, this is not even possible. And I hate that this person had this experience, but let's educate them. And if anyone else sees it, at least they can see that like I have kindness in my heart. I do hate that this person has that comment to say, but how much of it is true? I don't know. Maybe they just don't like me.
So can you go into more about your business model online, Pilates.com. Look, I did it twice. I can say it. Earlier, I was trying to say online Pilates and I kept saying online Pilates. And I'm not sure why it came out that way, but it was just like, I don't know, something about the eyes in there were just taking me down.
There's a lot of syllables. One of my friends calls it, she says Pilates, like Pilates. She says Pilates. And I was like, yeah, some people call it pilots. So how it works is you choose a membership that's based on the equipment you have access to. What does that mean? If you only have access to a room on the floor, then you choose a mat. If you are someone who has access to a reformer, there's a reformer and mat membership. And then if you have access to a full studio, there's a membership for that. And so what that means is when you join, you have only 2 to 6 classes at any given time to choose from. So you have a 30-minute mat class that drops every single Tuesday and a 50-minute mat class that comes out on the first of the month. And that class you have the whole month to take, which we do that because some people do want to have a longer abilities to work out, or maybe one day we can do a longer workout. And that one we actually film live every week. So our members can actually come and they get to see kind of how the sausage is made. They get to see like Brad mic me up and the whole thing. And then like they've been there when I've started the whole class and Brad's like, I didn't hit record. Let's do that again. I'm like, okay,
I love it.
Let's do that whole. And then like, I'm like, guys, I'm just gonna be honest. I don't know we did that. Was first time.
And they're probably like, yay, I got bonus.
And yeah, so they got bonus time, and then we actually hang out for 30 minutes, and I can give feedback on their form. I can right there in the hangout. We also do that for people who don't join the class live. You can actually send in a video of you doing an exercise, and I can give feedback on like, oh yeah, that would hurt my neck too. Here's what you need to do. Look here, use a pillow to curl up a little higher until you have that flexibility and strength. So we can really give customization to people because it is hard. And also every single body is different. I have super, super long legs, you guys. It is a whole different feeling in my body than if you have really short legs and a long torso. Or on our platform, we actually have people we have 4 other teachers because I really want people to see other bodies doing Pilates. And so the way that I did that was hiring these other teachers who all have amazing, unique outlooks on how Pilates is done. And they're all in different sizes. So they go from like 5 feet tall to 6 feet tall, and body types is in every which way. So we have some fun size, and we have some teachers who are bigger. And that's important because I don't like when people think if I do Pilates, I'll look like you. That's not the goal of this. And so, so at OPC, we really want you to realize what your body looks like. And so it's really fun. So some of our people who are like 5'3", 5'4" can see how our 5 foot tall teacher is doing an exercise, and they can resonate with that more than me. Right. And then our taller members can see how the taller teachers are doing it, and that can resonate with them. And that's just really, really important to me. So that's how the membership works. You can do a monthly membership or an annual membership, and you can really enjoy what it's like to be in community, but have the class be at the time you want.
So how did you actually start in this business? Because I think it's fascinating, right? I mean,
like get started online?
Because you were doing something completely different before. Yes. Yeah.
I was in retail. I loved being in retail. I thought I'd be in high-end fashion forever. And what actually happened is when I fell in love with Pilates, after thinking it was like the weirdest thing, I fell in love with it, and I started doing it all the time. Someone suggested I become a Pilates instructor, and I really wanted a way to pay for my habit. So I thought I would just like teach to pay for my Pilates practice. And I got so busy teaching Pilates that I had to quit my full-time job, which is fine because it was 2008.
It's really great time.
Was good habits. I was going to lose my job in 2 years anyways. So it really worked out for me. And I got so busy teaching Pilates that I really had a unique experience on the types of people I got to teach. I was in LA, so there's also a unique experience of like who you just randomly come across in LA to teach. And so I got to teach athletes and celebrities and also just like people. But what ended up happening is when I met my husband, we were just dating. He was like trying to learn what Pilates is, and he was just Googling like, what is Pilates? And he could figure out who Mr. Pilates was, but he couldn't figure out what Pilates was. And he's like, there's just like nothing out there. And he's like, you need to have a YouTube channel. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, this has been around for so many years. I'm like this years old in teaching. Like, I should not be the person who is the expert. And he's like, no, you need to do it. And you guys, I would cry during every filming of every free tutorial because I was just like, I'm going to do it wrong. People are going to say the meanest things to me. I'm going to do it wrong. And what ended up happening, as soon as the video started going out, and I wasn't getting mean comments, I was just getting people going, oh my God, thank you. I've been searching for this for years. I started doing more and more. And that was like around 2015, 2014. And then around 2016 and 17, I started traveling the world because so many teachers wanted me to teach them how to teach the way I did. And then that's when Brad was like, you have to create an online place for people to go. And I was like, oh my God, there's so many other platforms out there. I don't know what I'm doing. But I also was like, if I'm going to do it, it has to be like this. It has to have accountability. It has to have community. It has to have feedback on their form. There have to be these things. And that required really unique ways of having to build a platform. And it's not always the easiest. In fact, sometimes it's the hardest. But it means we have the most dedicated members, and I know most of their names, and and so it just really makes it a lot of fun. And that's kind of how we got here. It's been 15 years.
I love
I'm
that.
a 15-year overnight success, you guys.
Yay! No, I think so. Out of curiosity, what is it like working with your husband? So a lot of people can't. I'm asking a random question. I'll come back to the Pilates stuff, but a lot of people would not be able to work with their spouse. It would be the end, probably. So. And I've seen you guys together, and you guys are amazing. So I'm just curious what it's like to work with your spouse.
That's awesome.
We often tell people to not do it. I mean, here's the thing. Again, we don't have children. So there's not, I think that would also be a dynamic that'd be interesting. So it's our businesses are our babies, right? So what we had to do was have separate offices. So when we try to share an office, that was the most complicated part. Thank goodness for this house. I have my own office. He has his own office. It is a little tricky because we definitely meet expectations in a different way. And so it requires us to understand each other. I think it's what makes it great for our marriage is like, I understand his strengths in such an amazing way. And he understands my strengths in such an amazing way. And we call each other out when the other one gets in the way of our, like, I'm like, you're in my sandbox. This is my thing. You go do your thing. So like, we have to do that because otherwise it would just be all the time. Now I will say, because like, I have to remind myself, like, if we're in the office, like, how would I talk to this person if I wasn't married to them? Right? Because like, I will talk to him differently than I would talk to someone who would just be a person I work with. I would obviously,
I would never yell at my mom.
Like, so you know how I'm sure, Olivia, you yell at your mom in a way you would never.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Or she feels like,
no, for sure. I do it all the time.
Do that you're like, oh my God, I hate that I just did that. Like, I don't know. I don't want to call out Olivia, but we all do these things. We get comfortable, right? So that is something I'm always trying to work on is like, hey, let's like treat each other with the same respect we would if we were not married in an office together. But one of the hardest parts is not working all the time because anything can be work. So we have to be very intentional that the dog walks together at night. There's no work. And if one of us has a work idea, we actually have to go, hey, do you have time tomorrow? I want to talk to you about this thing. And we schedule it. So we put the thought that was in our brain. I have to hold on to it. I could put it in the meeting, but we don't do it then because I'm going to go to bed right away. And if I'm thinking about work, it's going to be really hard for me to sleep. Consequently, when he doesn't wake up early in the morning, that means I do not get to go into the room and go, good morning. Oh my God, these 7 things we have to talk about right now. Like we have to give each other space. And so again, it's just respect and boundaries and understanding how the other person prioritizes their time. And, I close my office door a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's great too. Like I think about that a lot of times where, Rob and I don't work together, but when I'm working late because I didn't finish something earlier and he wants to have like a regular human conversation. And then I go to, well, I'm kind of too busy because I have to do this. And he's like, it is not working hours. Like find it, like, let's find a happy medium, which he's so right, because you could let it consume every minute of your day. And we've been married for 31 years. So we get each other when you say you guys understand each other. Like I understand his strengths. He understands my weaknesses big time. And so we complement each other really well, but we do have to make that reminder to each other of that. Okay. When you're off, you're off. Like you don't. And what I do is I keep a notepad, especially because most of these ideas come like late at night or whatever. I just keep a notepad wherever, and it's old school, but I don't want to go on my phone at 2:00 in the morning or whatever. And I just write the stuff down so that I can get it out of my mind. Because if it's on my mind, I'm never going to sleep because I'm going to keep thinking I'm going to forget it.
I love that. I don't think it's old school at all to have a journal to note the notes in. I think like get off your screens, everyone.
Yeah, we spend way too much time doing that. So back to Pilates. So the idea of, it had to be a little scary, right? To jump from, even though like timing wise, but to take on this entirely new profession and then grow it the way you've grown it. It's impressive.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's impressive. It's scary. Whether or not, like, I think the best way to describe it is like, if anyone's listening to this wanting to make whatever their side hustle is or their purpose is or their like something they love doing, like as a way that they make money, first of all, it's not easy. It will always be scary. But one thing that like I rested on is that like, I could always bet on myself. Like I can bet on myself. I know that I will not let myself fail. So when I left my salaried job and health insurance to go work for myself, I knew that I would be able to figure a way out. I knew I'd be able to have an option. I knew what my backup plan could be if I needed it, which wasn't to go back into retail, but it was like, I could work at Starbucks. I could, I could be a coffee barista. I'll meet future clients, and it's a stress-free job, So like, I just knew I had options, to figure it out. And I think that's a really cool, thing to give yourself time to percolate on, what would that look like? The other thing I also did was I didn't start with I started with the end in mind, but I didn't make that the thing that I did every day. So I didn't have the idea of being an online teacher as a goal. For me, when I first started teaching, I was like, oh, I'll have a studio someday. And then I was like, okay, well, if I have a studio, what do I need to know? How does that work? And so I actually put myself in a place where I could work for a very high functioning studio. And I actually got promoted to be the manager, and I said yes to it just so I could this can't be a wrong thing. I'm going to learn how to manage a studio. I'm going to learn, because I knew how to do margins from retail, but I didn't know how to do margins for service-based businesses. So I really got to do that. I put myself in a position to not intern, but get paid to learn it. And so that made things less scary, and it made it so I could really focus on what do I want, and when do I want to work, and who do I want to teach? And that made things less scary and less scary. Where it got really scary is in 2016 when I left that place where I was working for someone else, and I also had got health insurance again and all that stuff. And so I was working part-time for myself and then part-time for them. And when I was like, okay, I'm going to sit down and let go of that. That was the most scary, because then I was really on my own. I was 100% on my own. Everything was me. I did not have my husband on my team yet. He was doing some things for my website for me, but he was not the CEO of my company or anything like that. But 3 years after that, I did bring him on part-time. And then a year after that, he was full-time. So the scariest year was 2020 when he was full-time with me. So he gave up his career to work with me, and then everything shut down. And I was like, okay, right, cool. Yeah. So I got to pay for us both. And everything is, but OPC already was in existence. I will say, a lot of people told me, oh my God, Lesley, you're so set up. You've had OPC for 2 years. You're just going to get so many members. That did not happen. COVID was not the year that OPC grew. In fact, we lost a lot of members to free workouts on Instagram that were happening and things like that. And I had to figure out how do we grow this? And to this day, I still always am asking myself that, because it doesn't just, the world's always changing. So how things, the best thing that worked before doesn't always work the next year. And so constantly trying to figure out how do you get the attention of the right people? And I'm not a snake oil salesman. So how do I get them to experience it so they have a win? So it's a constant, how do I get them to know this is a thing that they're looking for? And how do I get them to enjoy the experience with all the things that are going on in their lives? And, so it's not ever easy. But I just go back to I know I won't let myself fail. I will never let my team not get paid on time. There's all these things. And so that really helps me. And then also just remembering why I do it. So for anyone who's wanting to make that shift, why are you doing this? And if making that shift means you can get closer to that, then it can't be wrong.
That. So we could talk to you for hours, I'm sure, because there's 40 more things I want to ask you, but we are nearing our end. So,
you guys are so
Thank
fun.
You.
I love you too. This is
Thank
great.
you. Yeah. I the first time I talked to you, I was like, oh, I want her on the podcast. She's so fun, so cool. So thank you for being here. Tell people, two things. Tell people where they can find you. And then also, if you want to leave one last bit of advice, that would be great too. And then we usually wrap up. Olivia and I have a tradition that she has a calendar that I got her last year. So this is the second year of the calendar. It's called Unfuck Yourself. Excuse my language for those who care. But she reads a quote out of there each time. And usually it kind of relates to what we talk about. So it's a really kind of a fun way to end it. So Tell people where they can find you and any last bit of advice.
Yes. Yeah. So you can go to onlinepilatesclasses.com and you can find all of our free tutorials there. There's, all the goodness, blogs, anything you want there. Also our classes, we actually have an app. It's free. So you don't have to actually be a member to download the app. There's a lot of free content you can get on there. If you like to hang on Instagram, I'm at Lesley, Lesley.Logan. And there was one more question you had. One more piece of advice. Okay. Perfect is boring. It's so boring. nobody wants to be friends with it. Nobody wants to go to a perfect house. Like you think you ask yourself, like, are my socks clean enough to like even be on these white carpets? Like no one cares about it. So the moment you can let that go and just do the best you can, the more you'll be able to prioritize yourself first and you'll have a lot more fun.
That is such great advice.
For today, by the way, it's 8 hours.
Okay, Liv, read us your calendar.
Whatever that means. Because
I don't know what that means.
I'm going to do research.
Like 8
that
hours
is
because they're opposite.
Human beings are much more engrossed with the task of getting to the goal than actually achieving it. Or God forbid, facing the horror of having to permanently deal with life after they've done something they'd always wanted to do. Yeah.
That is so on point today. I mean, that resonates with me. Yeah. Oh, I do love that. It's so, because we get, sometimes people won't ever get to the goal because then what? Then you did it. So then what do you do anymore?
There's always a what's next. You just have to be open to it. So, well, thank you so much for joining us. Everything's going to be in the show notes. So there'll be a link to online Pilates.com, classes.com. See, I messed it up that time. Anyways,
it's okay. They knew.
Yes.
They filled it in
Good.
for you.
I said it enough times. So anyways, but thank you so much for joining us today. It was so much fun and looking forward to seeing you next time in person, the next time I see you in Nashville.
Yes,
so
hopefully. I would love to.
I can't wait. And then hopefully Olivia will be so we can all go out and hang out together in person. Yes. Well, thank you both. This is a joy, and I really enjoy the different perspective of your guys' questions. And so this is so fun. So thanks for having me.
Bye, guys.
Thanks everyone for joining us today on the Daughter Dearest podcast, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Daughter Dearest Podcast with Simone and Olivia Knego. We hope this episode has made your day just a little bit brighter and given you the inspiration you need to confidently go about your week. Always remember to be authentically you. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And feel free to connect with them on Instagram at Daughter Dearest Podcast, at Simone Knego, and at Olivia Knego. Till next time.